Today's stream. Today's stream was
glorious. No, I won't give in till I'm victorious. And I will defend.
If you've spent any amount of time in the online political space, you may be familiar with a man by the name of Dylan Burns. Tune into his stream for a bit, and I'm sure you'll agree with me when I say that he is without a doubt one of the most unique figures in online politics. And as you'll soon see, that uniqueness goes far beyond the camera. With that said, let's dive into a very special appreciation takedown where we talk about all the things we love most about Dylan Burns.
because at the end of the day, I'm the styling, profiling, limousine riding, jet flying, kiss stealing, wheeling, dealing son of a gun. You, all of you, stay glorious and stay blessed and stay safe out there. We made this. This is the type of content we made. We made specific content condemning people who have been perpetuators of war and have helped cause some of the worst war crimes in human history.
While Dylan's content and background are diverse, there's one thing he's especially known for around these parts. Mention Dylan's name around any Twitch politics regular and you're likely to hear them say, "Oh, the foreign policy guy." And they're not wrong. Dylan is the uncontested king of foreign policy and international relations content when it comes to Twitch politics. He's even appeared on stable streams like Vosh and Destiny, usually to educate them on some extra-national issue or another.
Trump's first drone strike killed an American girl. Nawar al-Awali. Now, a lot of people can say that's symbolic, but when you talk about a first operation that a president does, many presidents are very, very careful about what their first operations are going to be. And the reason why is it kind of sends a signal for what the rest of the foreign policy is going to be, what it's going to be like. They want it to go perfectly. And his very first operation killed an American girl who reportedly her last words were, "Don't cry, mama, I'm fine," which isn't exactly great.
If you really want to get an idea what Dylan's all about though, just go check out his content yourself. He goes out of his way to cover issues literally the world over. From the ongoing plight of the Kurdish peoples in northern Iraq and Syria, to the recent unrest in Belarus, to the ongoing Yemeni civil war, which is US backed by the way, that continues to kill and displace thousands. These are issues that, whether we realize it or not, affect all of us. Now more than ever, we live in a globalized world. We are interconnected economically, socially, and politically, oftentimes in ways that we take for granted or don't even realize. That being the case, what happens elsewhere very much ought to be our concern. In fact, given the level of influence that the United States exerts on the global stage, I would argue that concern is our responsibility. And that responsibility doesn't start with elected officials, it starts with us.
Holy shit, you've got to vote. It's really fucking important.
I think Dylan understands that better than anyone. We have a duty to be concerned and informed, and his content does just that. You can tell it comes from a place of passion and seeks to inform and educate those who are willing to listen. For example, not 3 months ago, I had just started streaming. I had no connections and a lot of questions. One of those questions was, what the heck is going on with Turkey and the Kurds? To me, this seemed like an important issue that I should be discussing with my audience, but I had next to no idea where to start. I reached out to Dylan with a cold DM, and he not only went out of his way to set me up with somebody who had the expertise to answer my questions, but actually blocked out time on his stream to host that conversation himself.
I am a freelance writer. I've contributed to a number of different outlets such as The Region, Aria Magazine, and Jerusalem Post.
I have these two on because I know Splinters wanted to learn more about Kurdish issues, so I thought, you know what, this would be a good chance to bring on somebody who wants to learn and somebody who I think knows a decent amount and have them interact.
This is a guy who really cares about the issues, and for that I have a tremendous amount of respect for him. In this space, foreign policy has become a part of the conversation in a big way, large in part because of the work Dylan has done and continues to do, and I think that's commendable. Something that I think really sets Dylan apart from other content creators in this space, though, is the way in which his advocacy does not stop at the camera. In fact, most of Dylan's activism seems to happen off-screen.
Connected to a plurality of other issues. And so this isn't a divided struggle amongst the working class of the rest of us. It is a united struggle. So when we move forward, doing this, we're not just saying stand up against gun violence, because gun violence is connected to the rest of these. We're saying stand up against poverty, stand up against oppression, stand up against racism, and stand up against these structures which have kept us in this place for so long, ever since the era of Ronald Reagan and before that. So when we say stand up, we stand up against all of it, not just what is socially acceptable by people in power. Thank you.
And he remains engaged in on-the-ground advocacy that I think deserves to be recognized. For example, at the moment, Dylan is working with the Prince George's County chapter of Our Revolution, as well as acting as head of volunteer management for the Matthew Mullet School Board campaign. Additionally, Dylan is working as a political consultant for 21st Century Democrats, an organization that does a lot of really good work in helping progressive Democrats around the country. He even serves on College Park's environmental board. But Dylan's activism is by no means a recent endeavor. Even at a young age, he was already getting involved in politics. He worked to help set up a school newspaper so students could stay informed, and spearheaded a campaign to remodel his school when the walls were quite literally falling apart. I actually got to talk to an acquaintance of Dylan's who served with him as a page in Maryland's state legislature during high school. Brian Kemper spoke glowingly about Dylan, but remembers one moment as particularly standout. As the story goes, a bill allowing Johns Hopkins University to commission its own private, militarized police force was being fast-tracked through the legislature on account of norms regarding local courtesy. Dylan, still a page at the time, actually grilled the chairman of judicial proceedings on the Senate floor over the obviously questionable policy and the way it was being handled. I think Brian puts it best. If you need a guy to hold power accountable, go to Dylan. It was around this time that Dylan came to the attention of Patrick Wojcik, mayor of Dylan's hometown of College Park. You see, Dylan did not have the easiest time of things when it came to his home life. His mother struggled with addiction and homelessness, forcing him to live with his grandparents. Now, a quick content warning, but Dylan is also a rape survivor, something he is intentionally public about, as he rightly believes it helps spread awareness and solidarity for other male rape survivors, who often go under-acknowledged. These hardships have helped shape Dylan's advocacy, and may even serve as a source of his tremendous drive. Not one to let obvious potential go unnoticed, Patrick took Dylan under his wing. With Dylan at the helm as acting campaign manager, Patrick would go on to win re-election by landslide numbers. When asked about Dylan's future, College Park's mayor had this to say: "I am really struck by Dylan's passion and engagement, willingness to get involved, and ability to take on multiple issues at once. He shows promise to continue to build what he's started and be a major leader in our community going forward." At the same time as Patrick's mayoral campaign, Dylan also worked as the Maryland State Director for Mike Gravel's presidential campaign.
Human beings are being killed as I speak to you tonight, killed as a direct result of policy decisions we as a body have made.
For those of you unfamiliar with Gravel, he's a former Alaskan senator whose platform emphasized issues like addressing the negative impacts of American imperialism, to re-emphasizing civil liberties with regards to domestic surveillance, and even electoral reform in the pursuit of more accurate representation.
It's not normal. But that has become the status quo. And that fundamentally, the fact that that all around the world, nations are practicing a foreign policy of murder. That is why I joined the Mike Gravel campaign. Because he's the only candidate who, well, one of two in my opinion, who fundamentally understood that.
In his time working with the Gravel campaign, Dylan took a stand on numerous local issues, from working to save food collection services at the University of Maryland to challenging potentially unconstitutional executive orders by Governor Larry Hogan. Real quick, I want to zoom in on this executive order point because I think it's super interesting. So, the order in question prohibits Maryland executive branch agencies from entering contracts or conducting state business with any contractor unless they certify that they will not levy any form of sanctions against Israel in response to its occupation of Palestine. Side note, if none of those words made sense to you, might I recommend a certain foreign policy streamer? In short, Governor Hogan leveraged a public institution to curb the First Amendment rights of private entities that want to do business with Maryland, with very little justification, I might add. That Dillon used his time and resources under the Gravel campaign to shine a light on this issue is a testament to his commitment of bringing foreign policy issues back close to home, as well as a fine example of his commitment to speaking truth to power.
We would connect the bigger campaign issues that we care about to local issues. For instance, one thing we talk about is how we send our troops over in the Middle East to die in places like Afghanistan and Iraq, and then they come home surviving, only to come home to Baltimore and find gun violence on the streets of their community too. Violence and weapons that should be used only in weapons in military conflicts to be in their community.
After the Gravel campaign came to a close, Dillon set his sights on his local city council. Having just turned 18 and registered to vote, however, he ran into a hidden provision in College Park's city charter that not only disqualified him from running, but effectively precluded many young people from participating in their local politics at the highest level. Rather than call it at that, however, Dillon pivoted his campaign to drawing attention to and rectifying this hidden provision, despite knowing full well that he would never be able to reap the benefits of that.
So I think moving forward, the best thing for the people who come after me to do is to advocate for this charter to be changed. I've talked to many people on the city council about changing this. I know me and Patrick Wilhan have gone back and forth, and I'm really recommending that we look further into getting this charter changed. Thank you.
And for the record, this provision is set to change, so good on that, Dillon. And that's barely the half of it. Dillon has done so much in the way of effective political activism. From working as the youngest foreign policy advisor in history on the Michaela Wilkes campaign, to running data management for the 1199 SEIU labor union, to fighting for the importance of voting rights for the homeless and adoption rights for LGBT+ individuals.
This is a matter that I want pushed hard. I really want this to get through. At the end of the day, we don't know how many homeless people are living in College Park, but if there's a single one, they should have the right to vote as much as any other person. But I don't think that when it comes to taxpayer money eventually going to these institutions and they being the providers for services for the public, they are going to have to provide services to the entirety of the public, gay people included, LGBTQ+ people included.
If you've been paying attention, you may have noticed a theme here. Dillon works a lot, and he works hard. His partner, Kaya Patterson, affirms this, saying, "I feel like he has a tremendous workload. In fact, he works himself to the bone." That said, wherever he goes and whatever he does, one thing is for sure. Dillon is making a real impact, and I'd say that impact is for the better. At the end of the day though, one of the things I appreciate most about Dillon is the way he's able to make politics, be they domestic or foreign, interesting and accessible for everyone. It's no secret that, unless you're a policy nerd like myself, these kinds of things can seem really boring, or at the very least overwhelmingly complicated. That doesn't change how important they are, of course, but it leaves us with the difficult challenge of innovating ways to get people invested and engaged with political problems and mechanisms. Dillon is tackling this challenge head on every day when he goes live, and he's succeeding. I've never tuned into Dillon's stream and felt bored or overwhelmed. He has a unique ability, likely on account of his obvious passion, to make esoteric, potentially faraway political problems seem immediately relevant, such that the audience not only has to listen, but genuinely wants to hear him out. On particularly complex subjects, Dillon will walk you through the issue step by step, or bring on someone who can. Questions are welcome and readily answered, and the curious are never made to feel lesser. That's to say nothing of the Hippy Dippy podcast, an especially fun and ongoing endeavor of Dillon's that seeks to take those same principles and showcase them for the rest of the community. bringing together a diverse cast of content creators to engage in productive discourse over current events. These are all really hard things to achieve, especially in the context of an online community. Yet Dylan's content is a masterclass in how to achieve them, showcasing what a productive space should look like. As usual, Dylan, I've spent some time in your Discord, as well as reaching out to your audience on platforms like Twitter in order to try and get a better idea of what sort of things your community appreciates most about you. And while an all-inclusive list is far beyond the scope of this video, here are just a few of the great things your fans had to say about you and your content. He is destined for great things. Proud, persistent, and passionate, all in the best of ways. Dylan is a great role model for other young progressives looking to break into politics, and he's really paving the way for how to get involved politically by integrating local and online spaces. I love that you're able to get people who disagree with you to stick around, chat, and engage. He knows how to use his life story for good and genuinely does what he cares about. As a people, as long as we see the problems of others as somehow separate from our own, we're doomed to disappoint. Dylan works every day to show that our problems are each other's, and for that, I can't thank him enough. It's no exaggeration to say the future of Maryland politics will be tinted by Dylan Burns. Dylan is very passionate about his community and is extremely generous with his time. He possesses impressive knowledge about the current state of the world, and his activism has helped several local elected officials. Truly a rising star in Maryland politics. Dylan has the fattest head you can imagine, but at least it's filled with good ideas. And there you have it, folks. Just a few of the things we love most about Dylan Burns, though surely not all. For the things I missed, feel free to let me know down in the comments. Additionally, if there's another content creator that you think I should spotlight, feel free to let me know about that too. And Dylan, if you're watching, keep up the good work being you. We appreciate it.